I'm going to hand over to Ernest to introduce himself and Nasri, and then take it away.
Hey everyone, so actually I don't need this. Actually, I'm just not going to use the mic. So I'm Ernest. I'm a Notion consultant with workFlowers. You already heard from Dennis. So I'm not going to go too much, but some of the credentials over there is he's been at Twitter, he's been at Barclays and Terrascope. So Nasri, he's another fellow Notion consultant, and he'll be sharing a little bit about the Notion's skills, similar to how Claude has skills, and using those inside of Notion later. And for me, I've started building Notion systems in 2022. And then now I'm starting to build, I've had clients and built for small, medium businesses and startups as well. And for today, I'm going to share how do you best use Notion AI natively and some other lesser known tricks. Okay, so this is the agenda for today, basically covering these 4 topics. Yeah, and using Notion AI in 2026 with the 4 main sections over here. Native Notion AI, which I'll be covering, AI skills, Nasri, and then Dennis will come in for the automating part of custom agents. And then after that, talking about where Notion is going, if you're a really power user who wants to maximize it. But before we get into that, can you all help the join Slido over here and then use the code so that we can even ask you some questions to better understand and tailor this session to you right now. And once you join, just help me fill this up. Okay, I think that's about 70 to 80% of you. So everyone here has at least heard of Notion. That's a good start. Now, I understand that this is then very, very beginner friendly, and I'll try to keep my section as such. I think the 2 of them will be a little bit more advanced, but that is if you want to get to maximize Notion well. But my section will probably be a very good ramp up towards that. So we have one more question for you to understand where you're at right now with AI. If you could just use the same link and just help me click this. Yeah, so most of you at least use AI beyond just conversing a bit. But for today's presentation, what we'll cover is me mainly at level 1 and level 2. And then after that, Dennis will cover level 3. Okay, we were supposed to have a section here where you can ask us any Q&A questions, but at the end of every section, we'll just stop and then we can do a quick open-ended Q&A session, as this is a pretty small group here. So jumping back into today's agenda, I'm going to click next. To first explain what Notion Agent and Custom Agent is, this is basically, do you have a slide on? Okay, we didn't really prepare a slide for talking about what Notion is because we thought the room was a little bit more familiar with Notion. But just at a very high level, what Notion is it's a workspace organization tool. And how it works is that it has a function called databases, where you're basically able to have a same kind of property for the whole database, similar to Airtable, similar to Airtable, but then which is very different from Google Sheets, where it's a spreadsheet format, and where every cell has a single property. So I'm just going to go touch on this first, and then I'll show live examples inside of Notion later. So for Notion Agent, So for Notion Agent, over here, this is like a vacuum where you need to run it each time, you need to prompt it, similar to a very conversational chatbot. But for a custom agent, it works in the background, where you can have certain triggers that will make it run, and you don't even need to do anything. You come back to it being completed, such as time, actions, or custom triggers that you can set up. So if you look at the bottom there, it says it's reactive and unlimited. But for custom agents, you need to, they run themselves and their usage priced. No, it's okay, this one works. Yeah, so if to the end of the section, for native Notion AI capabilities, this is what I'm going to touch on first. I'm also going to add a small little section in to talk about what Notion is, so you can all better understand as well. Then for Notion AI capabilities, this is the Notion AI interface. But so what Notion AI is that it's basically your AI in whatever LLM you use, but just brought into Notion. What I mean by that is, very similarly, you can use Notion acts as the knowledge layer where you store all of your information, and then you can ask questions from around your workspace if you look at the first point and any tools that are connected to it. Now this is just a high level of what it can do, and I'm going to touch on all of these in more detail. But basically, you can use it to edit, write, summarize, translate, and autofill. Yeah, there. And then after that, you can have instructions where you'll be able to train it on what you actually want, similar to how any LLM can be done, which Nasri will cover later. Okay, I'm not going to touch on those more. But so right now on your screens, if you look at your Notion workspace, you'll see that there are two separate sections on where you can get the Notion AI. On the top corner, you see what I'm on? Yeah, great. So you can click on Home over here. Once you click on the button, once you click on this button over here, it will come out and then you'll be able to see Chats with Notion AI. Then on the second part, you'll be able to see it down here as well. Both are the same and trigger the same agent that will run. Before I move any further, just clarify, Notion agent is the same as Notion AI. It's just Notion's naming of it. And then under this, you can see the different models that you're able to choose by clicking on this auto word here, and then you can choose the model that you want. So you'll be able to see that you can use up to over 10 leading closed and open weight models. And right now, they're still continually increasing the models that are available. And they recently added in Fable 5 and GLM last week as well. But the best part of this is that Notion AI is basically unlimited, where there is absolutely no usage caps as of right now for the business plan. The business plan, that's a bit too small. It's $20 per member per month if you bill it annually, and then $24 if you bill it monthly. So meaning, if you want to run Fable 5 for like 3 hours straight, that is perfectly okay also. And how I know that is because Nasri here has tested that, where he ran it to code for more than 3 hours with heavy hitting LLM code, and then after that, he got this error. Now, Claude has extended the Fable 5 period for, I think, until the end of Sunday. So therefore, the pricing will start in terms of Fable 5 being charged, but it's unsure when so. So I'm just going to touch on use cases right now, and then in that process of that, explain what databases are also, so that all of you are better able to kind of visualize it for those who have not even used Notion at all. So this is a very, very basic page that you get to once you start using Notion. But basically what a database is you're able to add in I'm going to show an example over here via table. See, help me build. So right now, I'm going to ask it to build a task tracking database because a task tracking database has very consistent properties and it can be used consistently across different types of tasks. So you can see that right now, Notion AI is actually going ahead to build it. I just choose auto mode because I'm not wanting something too particular. But if I want something very particular and I want it to reason very highly, I'll use a more intelligent model, for example, Opus. But then if it's just something quick and easy where I don't really care about it, I can choose something simpler over here, maybe like GPT 5.2, 5.4. In terms of usage, it doesn't really matter because, like I said, it's unlimited. But of course, then the reasoning does matter sometimes. So for those of you who don't actually understand, know what Notion is about, basically this is what I mean, where you can create you create 10 demo pages. Yeah, so I'm just asking you to help me create 10 demo pages here so that it's better able to visualize. But basically, each of them will have different properties over here where you're able to choose certain types of options that you want, and then based on the different properties that you choose, you're able to map out into different views as well, because you're able to visualize and organize all of this data into different views. So some views over here, for example, is a table view, it's a board view, and it's a calendar view. And there are also other types of views over here available, such as a list view. So really, there are many different ways of structuring data inside of Notion. But all of this is then basically a apart from this, there are other kind of use cases. So if I go into table again, I'm going to see some templates that Notion already has for us, where I click in Documentation Hub, and then I'm able to see that let me be clearer. And some other use cases is documentation, content creation, project management, SOP tracking, and several others. Really, like, personally, I even use it for my contacts, companies, deals, and even like my health, I store inside of Notion. So there's now like one use case where I've just shown you that you can actually use it to create pages inside of Notion, inside of a Notion database directly with Notion AI. And that is what makes it kind of so powerful, because the annoying thing about Notion is last time used to be that you had to create these databases yourself. But because with Notion AI, you're able to manipulate all kinds of data inside of Notion, and then just merely by talking to it, for example, I can say, mark all of these pages as done here for the task tracker. And then at the end of every day, you don't actually need to go and manually change the kind of status anymore. So that's one use case. Another use case here is, say, if I want to do event planning. And then after that, if I am connected to already other tools. So right now here, because in Notion AI, you're actually able to do connections to other different sources as well. So these are all of the AI connectors, which are basically just MCPs to other places that are already native, such as your Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Drive, your GitHub, Slack. And these are more of the corporate and enterprise level, which I'm not going to go too in detail about. But basically, once you connect them, you're then immediately able to go and call on them. This is only available to on the Notion business plan. So what I mean now is, because we're planning another event for next week, and usually we use Slack to communicate, and we also have some information out of Gmail and Google Drive. So I'm going to say, help me look for outstanding tasks for the next week's event on the Zapier X Notion event hosted at Cross Street WeWork. And then after that, it will just go and run and help me find what is actually relevant to my question here. So this is basically what makes Notion AI really powerful, because it acts as a context layer, or Notion acts as a context layer, and the AI is just immediately querying on top of that. So I'm just going to let it kind of show you how it's actually thinking, where it will use the Notion pages that are relevant to it, because we have talked about it and we have kind of created and stored our projects inside of it. And then over here, we also have other different sources that are already being added. And these are all the results that are being triggered in terms of its knowledge and memory. So this is really helpful as compared to other different, just using an LLM directly, because this acts, it is just faster and easier to get to it. Okay, this is really, really slow, but then the next part, just to introduce the next part while this is running, the next part will basically be talking about then how do you create repeatable skills and workflows inside of Notion with the help of something called a skills framework, which is basically what this here is about. And Nasri will just be showing us how he has built I believe, contract or scheme of work from meetings directly just using Notion AI. Right? Okay, so yeah, you can start coming in. But apart from that, then if you see here the outstanding tasks that are being created where we have not actually completed them, and it just is able to pull it and immediately refer to what we are actually, where the more context is about. So I think that is the kind of like quick 16 minutes introduction of Notion and also Notion AI. Do any of you all have any questions so far? I know that this is probably a pretty quick ramp up. One more last thing is that inside of here, because Notion has one of the sources in Notion Help Center already, so this is a quick tip that if you're actually very unsure of how to use Notion, you can just immediately click on this, on Ask Notion AI, and then after that click on this, and they'll be able to pull in all context about the help articles that exist inside of Notion's website as well. Yeah, cool.
Okay, thank you. It just by the way, guys, if you guys or what have any questions along the way, just scan the QR. We'll monitor the questions on our end. So actually, just now there was a bit technical, so it's okay if you guys just feel free to add it in, and then later Ernest will monitor, or we will monitor and answer your questions at the end of the session today. Okay. Okay, give me a sec. Okay. Test, test. Okay. Hello, everyone. Hi. So, we have already covered a little bit about Notion AI and what's the use case. Today, for this on my end, I'll be talking about skills. So imagine, right, you have a safe set of instructions, and later on in the future, you want to repeat that. You can just use the Notion AI and just tell the AI, say, hey, use for this purpose, use this skill, and you can just reference. Now, a skill inside of Notion is basically a Notion page itself. It's just a page with a list of instructions, right? And you can create a format where before the Notion AI executes itself, it looks through your instructions page. And I'll show you that in a matter. And the reason, so imagine this, see this picture here, this is the robot, right? This is Notion AI. The AI has ability to, for example, write emails, to create documents, to schedule. So all of these skills, you can just embed it inside the AI. The AI will look at that context, then it will execute it for you. Okay, so why does this matter? Because what used to be the norm was we used to prompt engineer. Gotta type this long, detailed prompt, right? That was how we used to do it with ChatGPT. But nowadays, it's no longer the case. You don't necessarily have to prompt engineer. So the way how we use the skills is you just prompt, and then later you tell the AI, save this as a skill. Okay, similar like Claude, if you already use Claude. Okay, so pretty much the same infrastructure. It's just that you just tell the AI, save this as a skill, and then the AI will run it for you. And when you write this skill, the way how we format it is, if you create this skill and it is a page, and you share this skill with your teams, they can also use the skill. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example. Let me just open up this page here. So this is just an example of how a skill creator would look like. Imagine you have something that you want to do, and you just tell the AI, hey, look at this page, and then create a skill for you. So just a bit of context here, you can see this top section. It's just basically explaining what you should do, what is the skill for. References certain things. I've actually created this. So Dennis is the one that created this skill creator inside of Notion, and we just use it to create new skills. So let me go back. So you're not a Mac user, Dennis, how do you go back?
Just click on in the background. Yeah.
This one?
Yeah, just click on the...
Okay. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay. Now, setting up agent skills in instruction page. And this is why it's powerful. So I just created this video, you guys can watch. So you see here, I'm chatting with my AI. You can also give your AI a name, by the way. I call mine so work a lot, because it works a lot for me. So this is the instructions page. When you click on that portion, then you'll see. So this is the area where you can actually set the context for your AI. And you see there's a section here that is database. And it's just an example of the rest, like you set your guardrails, and you can create this with Notion AI. It will just generate for you all this. Right? Don't get overwhelmed by all this like long data. It's just chatting with the AI. So one of the example is creating, let me pause here. So you see here, right, this section here, I actually, for us as consultants, me, Ernest, and Dennis, we have sessions where we do setup calls with people around the world. And initially, what our workflow, my workflow typically is, before someone get on a call with me, I want to write some discovery questions so that I can ask questions for them, and I also want to send emails to them as well. So this is the workflow that I have. So what I do is I create a skill called the Nasri setup call, discovery call, prep skills. A very long one. And you can see here, this is the instructions, right? Just a bit of overview. If you see this part here, you see what's the job of that, what's supposed to do. So what my workflow is actually just inside this page. Okay, I'm just going to continue play. So things like asking good questions, look at the company research summary, look at like the context, what the person is doing and stuff like that. And then like also this part here, you'll see a pre-call email draft. And just a structure, email structure, right? And it's all in this one page here, just this section you see. Okay? Yeah. That's how you actually set up an agent skill. So in your Notion AI, if you see your edit instruction, you will find like a blank template. But what you can do is you can just ask your AI to build upon that instructions page, include your context, your what's the AI supposed to do in general, and then set up a database again. If you're not sure how to set up a database, there's always the Notion Academy. You can learn from there. Then you just set up a database with all the skills, right? And imagine this. This is what I do every morning. Hi, can you help me prep session for the... for context, I'm actually on my setup calls database. That's the page that I am in. And I just ask this question. And the AI, basically in a few, like maybe 30 seconds, it will just run. And once it runs, I'll just say, okay, proceed to send the email. Done. I don't have to open anything at all. It will just prepare this for me. So imagine if you're waking up, maybe even before you reach, maybe like once you reach work, right, you still need to grab your coffee or something like that. Then maybe you got some work that you need to do beforehand. Just get your AI to maybe example. Hey, can you like what Ernest did, right? Can you like look at what's the thing that I need to follow up with today on my email or my Slack, right? And you can save this as a skill as well, and then call it like morning brief, right? And you can generate that early every day. How do we run this at workFlowers? So this was the one that Ernest actually showed earlier on. If you see at this section here, let me just open this up so you guys can see better, right? If you see this section, there's a skill that pretty much what we do at inside of Notion, which is some that's belong to me, some that's belong to Dennis. We do have like an email writing skill, so this is more related to Dennis. There's also a blog and social content skill. So we can, for example me, if I want to learn how Dennis write his blog post, I can just look into his instructions and then I can learn from there. That's one of the use case. Another use case is what we can share, things like creating project proposals. So imagine if you have one person just create the skill, and then the rest of the team can just use that skill. This is so critical nowadays because imagine if everyone create their own skill, then after that your brand alignment change, then the structure change, then that will be an issue, right? So to keep things standard, someone create the skill once, and then you can also use this skill. They just reference the page inside the skill. Okay? So so this is what I explained, what it does. The skill is shared across the team, and you can tell the AI to look at the instruction page first, just say it in the instructions. And you can write emails and follow the same company structure as well. That's what you can do, right? I think that's on my end. So now, is there any question? Did anybody ask any questions from the app? So far, Noah?
I have a question. What does nosy mean for the skill type?
Oh, Nosy. Nosy is actually the Notion AI's name. This guy. This Nosy.
It's an informal name, unofficial.
Yeah, it's an informal one.
Anyway.
Yeah, so it's just how we recognize what's the skill type is nosy. So obviously, like if you tag it correctly, right, you're able to see much more clearly who owns what, right? Okay, yeah, I think that's all. If you have any questions again, just ask at the skill that one. I pass this to Dennis to cover custom agents. Okay, to the fun stuff.
Oh, wait, then.
No, you just tap here to me.
Oh, thanks. All right, thanks, Nasri. Let me just go back into present mode. Just before I move on, any questions? I know we covered a lot, so please feel free to jump in with any questions about anything that we've covered so far. The example I'm doing, or if you have your own idea, feel free to kind of go off on your own and build your agent. But as a brief intro to recap from what Ernest explained earlier, custom agents are a different type of AI agent in Notion that is really designed for, rather than prompt-based interaction where you go to the AI and you ask it a question or assign it a task, they run autonomously in the background, either on a schedule or triggered by some event like a new page being added somewhere, or an email is received, or a Slack message is tagged with a certain emoji. So these are kind of 24/7 AI agents that can just work in the background, and then you can look at the finished product, or you may not even have to necessarily look at it. The work just gets sort of done for you. What makes a custom agent? There's a few key components. One is the instructions. So that's basically like a system prompt, a page in Notion that just tells it, tells the agent what its role is, its function, and what it's supposed to do to conduct the job that you're assigning it. Then you have connections, which are connections to different tools in your tool stack. That might just be other pages in your Notion workspace, but it can also be external tools, like all the ones we've mentioned, Gmail, Slack, Google Drive, and anything really that has a remote MCP server can be connected to a custom agent so that your agent can interact with that SaaS tool or application. And then the third big component is your trigger or schedule. So when do you want this agent to go to work? Is it on every day at a certain time, or is it only when a certain thing happens in some system inside Notion or elsewhere? Then you define, you have pretty fine-grained controls over exactly what actions an agent can take on your behalf. So you may connect it to your Gmail account, but you don't want it just sending emails without your knowledge. Maybe you give it permission to create drafts, but then you still look at them before you revise them before you actually send them. And then permissions, on a related note, you have fine-grained control over, within Notion and connected tools, exactly what resources the agent has access to, so that you're not giving it access to, say, sensitive information that you don't necessarily want it to be exposed to it. A quick note on custom agents. Unlike Notion Agent or the sort of chat-based Notion AI, custom agents run on a credit-based pricing model. And that's because if these are AI agents that could be theoretically running 24/7, that can run up a lot of tokens. And so Notion passes that cost on in the form of you basically pre-purchase a bucket of credits each month, and then your agents will consume those. So we were going to have a quick break here, but I think we're ahead of time. So I think we're OK. And just in the interest of getting everyone home, I'm going to go on right through. Is that OK? Cool? OK. Obviously, if you need to take a break, please feel free. So I haven't stuff here on the slides, but what I'm actually going to do is just hop over to the demo workspace and build it live from here. So, and everyone, please do follow along if you're interested. I'm going to walk through building a very simple custom agent. And for this one, I want an agent that will help me do email triage and basically draft replies to all the emails that I have sitting in my Gmail account that seem like they need some sort of follow-up. So the way to get here is, let me make this a little bit bigger, is in your sidebar under this agent section. If anyone doesn't see it, please let me know. You just click on New Agent. And what that's going to do, it's going to bring up a big prompt box. And again, kind of one of the overarching themes here is increasingly we use AI to help us use AI. So instead of going in and configuring all of this yourself, you just describe vaguely to the AI assistant what you want the agent to do, and it'll kind of build out the scaffolding for you. You can, of course, still, if you want to start completely from scratch, you can create blank. But really, the main way and the easiest way to create them is through this prompt box. So basically, you don't have to be super detailed here, but you can just give it a description of what you want it to do. So I'm just going to say a daily email triage agent that will draft replies to emails that require follow-up. And I'm going to go ahead and go. And while it works, what you can see here is the components that we talked about before. So first is the trigger. So when should this agent run? Then is the instructions, which the assistant here is working on. So that's not filled in yet. And then tools and access, which is basically what resources in either Notion or your connected tools do you want this agent to be able to access. So you basically, rule of thumb should be give it as little as it needs to do its job. That's a general good practice from a data governance perspective, but also in terms of cost. If the AI is reading through a bunch of documents that aren't relevant for its job, you're just burning a lot of tokens and running up a lot of credit usage without any real value coming out of that. So if we look here on the left, okay, your agent's now set up as a daily email triage, mail access, drafting behavior. It's explaining what it does. But one big thing I need, oh, sorry, I've already connected it. So if I hadn't connected it before, what I would have had to first do is connect it to my Gmail account, but I already did that earlier today. So the trigger here is, actually, it didn't build this exactly what I wanted. I don't want this to happen every time. So right now it's configured to happen every time I receive a new email in my inbox. I think that's overkill. I want to say, actually, let's just have this run once a day at 9 a.m. and do a scan of all emails that require follow-up and draft replies only to those. So again, I could go into these instructions here and configure the prompt and all of that myself, but it's usually a lot easier. Oh wait, I just lost that instruction. Can I just paste it? Nope. Okay. So I'm just going to tell it that I want to make a change. And again, the assistant is going to kind of help build this. While it's doing that, so what you should see is it changes the trigger. So instead of new email is received being the trigger, there we go. It changed it to daily at 9 a.m. Now we can look at the instructions. And while we don't have to write these kind of detailed prompts by hand anymore, it is important to read them after you have an AI assistant write them, because that's kind of the only way you'll catch if it's not really caught the basic idea of what you want your agent to do. So give it a quick scan, but it's pretty good at kind of inferring your intent just from a very basic prompt. So one of the nuances in a job like this is, how do you know like what is considered an email that requires follow-up? Like you don't want it to write replies to every marketing email that you get, et cetera. You don't want it to hallucinate, and so on and so forth. So did it catch that? Yeah, so it has a line here, okay, if no reply is needed, so the agent, every time it runs and looks at every email sitting in your Gmail, it's gonna make some decisions about what actually warrants a follow-up or not. And so these are pretty good things that it's already put in its instructions to ignore. So don't draft replies to emails that are just FYIs, newsletters, receipts, et cetera. And then always a good rule of thumb to have in your AI instructions, do not invent stuff, facts, commitments, prices, anything. And so on and so forth. So you can tweak that again. You can tweak it manually if you want, if it's something very simple. But you can also just prompt the agent and make those changes.
There's some questions, Dennis, at the back for you.
Yes.
You see at the back, there's some questions that people are asking.
Yes.
There's something that you might want to...
Yes, absolutely. So, so the connections will be down here. So first you define what resources in your Notion workspace you want it to have access to. So you might not want it to have, in this case, I don't really need it to look at anything in Notion. So firstly, it's connected to my Gmail already, and I can define the permissions here. So let's say I don't even want it to have the ability to send emails, only write drafts, right? So that will be a deterministic, like hard rule that is not subject to the AI kind of forgetting. If I change that setting, it definitely cannot send emails. It can only create drafts. Next, let's say I want to connect it to something else. So in the list, so there's a longer list of tools that you can connect with out of the box compared to the standard Notion agent. So in addition to things like Slack and Google Drive, there's also Figma, there's Adio, which is a popular CRM. There's Amplitude, which is a web app analytics tool. There's Box, Miro, Mixpanel, N8N, Stripe, and you can also, the important thing here is a custom MCP server. So there are a lot of, almost every SaaS app these days has an MCP server, which, just quick show of hands, is everyone familiar with what an MCP server is? Okay, so an MCP, it stands for Model Context Protocol. It's a standard that was developed by Anthropic in, I think, 2023, that has since become open source. Basically what it does is it gives LLMs a way to interact with other applications without having to know like API code. So if you want your LLM, whether it's Claude, ChatGPT, or a Notion agent, to be able to talk to your Salesforce or to talk to your Jira or whatever tools you're using, MCP is a standard that allows it to easily do that without you having to write any sort of custom code for it to be able to interact with it via API. So most SaaS apps these days, especially like enterprise B2B ones, will have an MCP server. And to connect one, usually all you need to do is plug it, paste it in. They'll give you a URL. You connect it to your Notion agent. The first time you do so, it'll just kick you out to a login screen, like when you're connecting something to your Google account. You authorize it, and then you're good to go. So it's very easy to connect. So yeah, virtually any tool that has an MCP server can be connected to an agent. Other things that you can configure here are the model. So again, as Ernest talked about earlier, one of the great things about Notion AI is that you're not locked into any one model provider, which I think is especially relevant these days because every other day, like another provider sort of leapfrogs the other and someone else is in front. And so having the ability to kind of experiment with all of the different providers, and you may discover you have a preference, or you might prefer OpenAI for some types of work and Claude for others, you have that flexibility. But within the context of custom agents, there's another factor, which is that, again, this is usage-based pricing, which means that there are real trade-offs that you have to think about. And basically, you're balancing between speed, intelligence, and then, importantly, cost. So to make that easier to sort of understand, Notion's built these little like scorecards here, where when you hover over any model, you get this little like 5-point ranking on speed, intelligence, and cost. And you can decide which model you want to run. You can leave it on auto, in which case Notion has like a model router that'll just sort of decide for you. I don't like doing that because I have no kind of idea like how it's choosing or what it's using, and is it necessarily choosing basically I want to choose the cheapest model I can that will actually get the job done. So I like having that control so I can experiment with it. Some of the good ones for basic tasks like GPT 5.4 Mini or Nano are quite cheap from a credit usage standpoint. Any of the Claude models are relatively quite expensive. And then now increasingly there's a lot of open weight models out of China and elsewhere that are have a quite good ratio of like intelligence to cost. So I've been using GLM 5.2 a lot recently, which is a model out of China that was released just a couple of weeks ago. So you have that flexibility. Once you're done, you can simply hit save, and your agent will now run on the trigger. So I'm not going to run an example here because I don't want you to see the replies that it's going to start drafting to my own actual inbox. But if you've connected your own Gmail to it, you can actually try it yourself. So in addition to running on the schedule, I can also just go and chat to it anytime. And the way I can get to it is from this chat tab. So in addition to sort of standard Notion AI, you'll see now that I can also see this custom agent that I've built. So I can just click here, and I can just talk to it, and I can just say, if I just want it to run manually, I can either click this Run Agent button, or I can just say, just chat to it and say, hey, do your thing, and it'll start looking through my emails and drafting replies. And then those will show up directly in your Gmail drafts box. You can look at them, tweak them, send them, delete them, whatever your preference is. So that's a quick walkthrough of what custom agents look like. And just to give you some ideas of other things that you can do, I'm going to go over back to our workspace. And we have quite a long list of agents that we have running in our workspace for a lot of different kinds of things. So some of the examples here would be subscription confirmation logger. So we keep in our Notion workspace a database that keeps track of all our various SaaS subscriptions, how much they are, when they're renewing, when we need to cancel them, because oftentimes there's a statute of limitations. Like you have to cancel 90 days before the renewal date, or else they force you to sign up for another year. All kinds of those things. And you obviously don't want to get stuck in another year of some SaaS app that you don't want to use anymore. So this is an agent where basically anytime, it's also tied to Gmail, but this one runs anytime we tag an email, or I tag an email with a certain label in Gmail. Basically the agent will look at that email, look at the PDF, figure out the subscription, start and end date, and then it'll create a record in our subscription database with a reminder that says, hey, you better, if you want to cancel this thing, you have to cancel it by X date. And lots of other examples. I'm going to hand over to Nasri in a second, so I don't want to take up too much time. But there are just many, many things you can do with custom agents. So I definitely encourage you for these next 2 weeks, while you have access to this demo workspace, continue to try to build. And Notion actually, when you go into the building interface, it'll suggest some ideas for you you can kind of just experiment with. But another common one is if you use Slack, for example, you can build all kind of workflows, like an agent that sort of lives inside a Slack channel and jumps in to answer frequently asked questions, because it can pull the answers from Notion, from other Slack threads, et cetera. That can be super useful because it saves people a lot of time for that kind of shared knowledge to make it visible to others on the team. All right, so with that, I'm going to hand back to Nasri now, who's going to show you, some of the even more advanced features and newer features that are coming to Notion. Okay, Nasri.
This one,
Oh, you want to switch computers?
the document, I don't know whether they can build together or not. Do you want them to build together?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try. But is it inside? Is it inside? I just prompt manually.
Oh, sorry.
Oh. You can answer with the mic here.
Yeah, sir. Yeah, sorry, I missed those questions because they were behind me. Yeah, customizing it to your own unique writing style, that is very relevant. And all of that basically can go in the instruction page that you write. If you have a very specific style you want to, whether it's creating content for your blog or writing emails, you can just include in the instructions for your custom agent those kind of style tips. For example, when I write content for the blog, I don't want it to sound, like the ChatGPT voice, like it's not X, it's Y, all those kind of things. So you can write that into the instructions. That's a very common thing to do. How do we access the Agent Skills tab? So the Agent Skills tab is actually not a native feature of Notion yet. It's actually coming tomorrow in early beta that we're going to get early access to. So what we did was we built our own skills database, basically taking the idea from Claude. So Claude has had this feature since I think last year, early last year. And really, like all a skill is kind of like a pre-written prompt, like a detailed prompt, when you want the AI to follow a kind of repeatable, structured process across time. So every time I draft a project proposal, I want it to, do it in a consistent way, and also across people. So everyone in the company should have a, consistent format for writing project proposals. So really, all it is at its basic level, a skill is just an instruction page. So all we did was organize all these instruction pages into a database so that we can have them all collected in one place, and we can track certain kind of meta properties like who wrote this skill, who's using it, that sort of thing. And you can see this is my blog and social content skill. It's got basically a whole super long section about like, don't sound like AI. Like, I know you're AI, but don't sound like you're AI. And then the way we sort of fold this in is once we have this database, each person, each user in Notion can have their own personalized instructions page where you give it some basic information about who you are, your identity, how you want it to behave. And so what we did was, in addition to the basic stuff that you put on this instruction page, we just embedded that agent skills database into each of our individual instruction pages and told it, we each have an instruction that says, in addition to everything else that I say here, whenever I ask you to help me with something, before you do anything, first scan through this list of all the skills that we have set up, see if any of them seems relevant to the task that I've just asked you to do, then read the whole thing, and then follow those instructions when you proceed. So the beauty of this approach, and this is why it was a sort of insightful kind of innovation from Anthropic, is that AI can only hold so much in memory at any given time. It's called a context window, right? So if you had like 50 pages of all these things for every different task, and you wanted Claude to sort of, or whatever AI to remember all of that all the time, even though most of the time only a small amount of it is relevant, your AI would hallucinate a lot, it would forget things a lot, it would just not perform very well. So what this is kind of an on-demand system. So what we're saying is, I don't want you to read all 50 of these, right? Like most of the time, it's not important. I just want you to read these descriptions, which are 1 or 2 lines, compare it to the task that you're working on, and only if it's relevant, then read the whole thing, because these could be pretty long, right? So it's a way to kind of balance having these pre-written instructions without overloading your LLM's sort of memory from the start. With all that said, Notion is about to roll out an enhancement where basically skills will become a more native feature. We'll get to test it, I think, tomorrow morning, so I can't tell you too much about how it's going to work, but I think it will be a little bit more user-friendly than this sort of, like we kind of hacked our own version that we've been using for a while now. Second brain, I think people use the term second brain to mean a lot of different things, so I'm not sure if was that your question, sir?
No.
Oh, okay.
What's the definition of second brain to you?
I don't actually use that term very much, to be honest, because to me, I think it's just, I think what people use second brain for is the idea of like not having to remember everything, and just kind of having it in a system that is structured where you can find it when you need to, so you don't have to carry it. So it's actually kind of a similar concept to LLMs having a finite context window. Like you can't remember everything all at once, but if you have it organized in a structured way somewhere, then you can find it when you need it without having to keep it all in sort of your finite memory all the time. So I think that's to me kind of just like the basic definition of a second brain. And so to me, like a lot of that is organizing things into databases in Notion. So instead of having like a bunch of loose Word docs or Google Docs all over the place, when you organize things into a database like this, each one of these is its own document. But because we have all of these properties, we can easily sort by them, we can filter by them. It gives you a more structured way of organizing all of that sort of loose material. And then the other thing is because of AI and LLMs and the way they're able to search based on meaning, like semantic reasoning, instead of just like a keyword search, it actually even makes it less important that you have all your stuff super organized. because you can just ask your LLM, what did I write? What did we talk about last week about this project? And even without any databases or anything, LLMs will still actually do a pretty good job of being able to figure out what you mean. And even if it's not an exact keyword match, find the search results that are relevant. So that's how, for example, Ernest was able to search about what's going on with his event that we're running next week. And it pulled stuff. Some of it was from databases or from exact word matches, but a lot of it was also just from reading docs, understanding the meaning and the intent, and then surfacing what was relevant. Why Notion AI over Claude? I think, yes, so you definitely can connect Claude to Notion. I think that one of the things is, if you weren't using Notion for anything else, I wouldn't advocate subscribing to Notion just to use the AI. I think the power of Notion AI is that if Notion is the workspace where a lot of your important context lives, tasks and projects and documents and meeting notes, etc., then yes, Claude or any other LLM could connect to Notion through MCP and search that stuff. But within the context of Notion AI, it has access to Notion content that lives in Notion as more like a first-class citizen. So if you just compare sort of the search results that you get, you're likelier to, because Notion AI has some post-training that basically, with whatever model you're using, it has more built-in sort of skills that tell it how to use Notion, how to search it, how to understand the connections between different pieces of content, information in a Notion workspace. You'll get better performance. So I think the idea is you start with Notion as your context layer first, and then Notion AI adds a lot of value. If you're not using Notion for anything else and you don't really see a need to, then I wouldn't necessarily say choose Notion AI over Claude. So hopefully that makes sense. And then the other thing is I think there is a lot of value to having the flexibility of toggling between different providers, because again, at least for me, I like having at least some sense of how newer models or newer features are performing and comparing them. And so just being able to kind of play around and use different models for different kinds of work, to me, I find really useful. Let's see. Why does your library have much more applications than the one? So sorry, I'm toggling back and forth between our actual workspace that has all of our actual stuff that we workflowers use as a company, and then the demo workspace, which basically at this point has nothing in it. We set up that workspace, but we didn't, kind of pre-populate it with fake content. That's why there's nothing in it at the moment. But what you can do easily, if you want to get a sense of what it sort of feels like to have more content in Notion, if you go to the marketplace, which is down here way at the bottom of the sidebar, there are lots and lots of templates, many of them free, some paid. Obviously this is just for experimentation, so look for the free templates. But you can get an idea of all of the different things that people use Notion for, both personal and professional. And you can just, any of the free ones, you can just download it, install it. It will have some, dummy data in there. So if you want to get a feel for, what it's like. And again, if you want to try using Notion for these 2 weeks while the trial is still running, and you want to build some kind of system for tracking, certain kinds of information, just ask Notion AI to, kind of help build it for you. No, Notion AI does not allow bring your own API key. Any tips for limiting the potential damage from an agent if these faulty settings are overlooked? Yeah, I think just be very careful about the permissions that you give it, and also what the access level that you give it to, documents and other tools. I think again, operate on the principle of need to know basis. Give it access to as little as it needs to do its job, from both a governance perspective and also from a cost perspective, because the more pages it has to read before completing its task, the more tokens, the more credits it's going to be burning up. And if those documents aren't relevant to the job, then don't even give it the option. So yeah. And sorry, one last thing. I'm eating into Nasri's time, so I'm just one last thing though that I will share is that what is also helpful is when you're looking at any custom agent, you get this Insights tab, which will show you like each time the agent ran, and then some basic data like the outcome, when it happened, importantly like how many credits it consumed, what model it ran. So this is useful for kind of like auditing if you're worried about cost, or you're trying to see like sometimes the agent, like when is the agent failing, for example. You can look through all this data and kind of audit it that way. And you get some basic stats like completion rate and so forth. Okay, I think I've really gone over my time. So I am going to hand it back over to Nasri now. And sorry. Here we go.
Here you go.
Oh, yeah.
Pass to you just now. Okay, so now to the more advanced and more fun stuff. In Notion recently, they actually announced the AI computer use. So I'll be covering a bit more of these demos, and you can try along if you want to. But just an overview, right? An AI inside of Notion can not just do chat. I think we can do just more than that. Recently, they've released computer use. It basically is a sandbox environment. What it means in general is your AI now has its own computer, and it can use it to run, like generate a presentation from a proposal document, for example. You can even code a prototype website, and I've done this and I'll show you later how it works. And if you have like a CSV file, you want to run analytics, you want to get some data just shown in front where you can show to your bosses, you can also do that as well, right? So, and then later Dennis will cover a little bit about Notion Workers, and I'll cover back a bit about the AI meeting notes. If you see at the bottom left, there's this thing that has been running all along. That is basically transcribing the session that we have today, and I will show you how and what we do with it later. Now, if you look into your demo, if you guys are already in the demo workspace, you will see a theme space. Anybody see a theme space in the workFlowers demo? I just included one project proposal. It's a mock-up of it. Okay, you will see something like this. Sorry, too fast. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how a HTML would look like. So this is the document itself. Okay, and if you guys want to follow along, you guys can do this. So this is just a bit of overview. You can see this is a example of a project proposal, right? And we got some data here about the project, some phases, some deliverables, and then like some of the project costing, right? So imagine you have a document, something like this, and now I can just ask my AI. Do you see in the team space?
You're in our workspace now, not in the demo workspace.
Oh, okay.
Switch over to the demo workspace.
Okay, let me see. Let me navigate.
Go to the top left. You have to make the thing.
Again, I'm not familiar with the Mac. Sorry.
The presentation is in our workspace.
Yeah.
Go out of full screen. Yeah.
Where's the workspace? Yeah, I'm not sure where it's.
Weird.
I think it's just a plug. You need to refresh the page.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. There you go. So wait, did you add it here?
I
I don't
added
think it's
it.
in the demo space, is it?
I added it already. It's not inside here. Let me see.
Move it over now.
It's on my.
If you edit this, try clicking the icon because I think that
it is in
the workspace around there.
Okay, yeah, just search for it. It is in there somewhere.
Okay, just search for mock proposal. Okay, you see? Okay, do you see the mock proposal? So this is the one. Okay, now let's try and build workspace together. I see some of you guys here as well, so you guys can see this. Now, we're gonna do this. Just gonna tell the AI, hey, using your computer tools, build a HTML presentation for this mockup project proposal. Okay, so we're gonna let AI run its own thing. And you can see here at the chat, right, the AI is using its computer tools and is particularly pointing to this artifact design skill that it has. And it's going to look at the context of this and it's going to run. So while we wait, if you guys want to use this, right, before you guys run this on your chat, just duplicate this. Just go to these 3 dots here and then just duplicate it, and then from there you just type and chat. Okay, try. You guys want to do it? And at the same time, you can see right now it's running on auto. So you can also still choose the model of your preference if you want to. This is still using Notion AI, so it doesn't apply to any like credits or what. It's still using the Notion AI agent or Notion agent. So you can run it on Fable 5 if you want to. It'll be fast. Right? You can see it's currently rendering the presentation view down. There we go. So now we have this. Let's open up and see. Ta-da! Nice? Right? Similar like Claude, right? So why is this so important, right? And why is it good to do this here? Is because the AI has your context, right? Once you have like a mockup or proposal, or you have data, your database, the AI can generate this for you. It can turn your a document into a nice presentation. I also heard that you can run like remotion video. I haven't tried that yet, but you guys can also try. You can create videos, you can create PowerPoint presentation as well. So if you're in the Microsoft ecosystem, then yes, right? You can turn and upload your Word documents, your presentation, and then make changes, right? And also get Notion AI to create a presentation for you. Yeah, and then what you can do, because Notion currently has what we call a HTML blog. So what you can do is just type /HTML, and we have these embeds here. Okay, this is a new feature that just launched. Basically allows you to upload any HTML file, right? So I can just typically just save this to any page, right? I'll save this to this page here, and then I can just share this page along. So I have like a page, and I have like a presentation that I can straight away share with my team members or whoever, right? And I can also can see all the difference. You can create slides, you can create game, you can create prototype, and you can even, again, like with like a coding agent, you can code and get the agent to code for you a prototype. Okay, now let's go back to the second thing. Give me a sec. Where are we at? This one? Not this one. Sorry. Is it this one, Ernest? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, this is what I did recently as well. I built an inspired site. It's called Nasri Flix. It's currently live right now. If you go to nasriflix.com, I actually I created what we call a PRD inside of Notion, and then from the PRD itself, I get AI to prototype a HTML form first, right? So get the structure and everything. After that onwards, I asked the AI to turn it into a Next.js app, right? So basically like more functionality with backend and everything, and I can export that as a zip and then work with my Cloud Code. And And then after that, I can just upload it to GitHub and host it on Netlify or Vercel, things like that. So it's super easy to build apps like this nowadays. So this is Nasri is just a inspired site for like the talks that I have. You can see the conversation that I have here. Let me just open this up, see if you guys can see. So this is taking a reference, again, like the AI needs reference, right? So I just ask the AI to reference this page. So this is what I have, like all my workshops, my talks are all here, right? Then I just ask the AI to build for me. And then I got the conversation. So previously it was a Notion site, it was just like a page in Notion, and then I share this with people. But now I want to make it more interactive so they can just view it as a Netflix site. And if I open this page up, this is the conversations that I have. It's very long. Okay, see, so that's why I spent like 3 hours, and then Ernest said I hit a limit usage because of this. It's a lot, right? Yeah, so I just say, hey, can you code a HTML website like Netflix but for my projects? Just again, like just in simple language, just talk to the AI, and the AI crafted for you. Obviously, this one, it crafted for me, but it didn't use like a computer, the agent computer usage. So I get, okay, you hold up, use your agent computer. I just tell the AI that. Then I say, okay, reference from this. Just now I show you, right, reference from that portfolio, this portfolio. Yeah, so it did. Okay, and then after that, what else? Oh yeah, then I just keep chatting with it back and forth until it. Then I download the zip. After I download the zip, then I just work with Claude, right? And you can also embed this again, because if it's a HTML code, you can just embed it inside your page. So you can think of this like building calculators for your own personal use. Things like calculating financial, all the data stuff, creating dashboard or visual analytics that makes sense for you guys. Use the data that you have, create interactive presentation again, right? And if you're not sure what to build also, right, just ask the AI, hey, look at my data, what do you think will be useful to create as a HTML interactive site? Things like that, right? So I guess excited now. I spent yesterday building this also. So I created nasriflix.com in like 2 days. Very fast. So I like, okay, I'm gonna double down on this. This works for me. So I just straight away buy the domain and then I just upload already. Nasriflix is now live. If you go to nasriflix.com, I also built an interactive game. It's called Nas Bobble. It's actually a puzzle bobble inspired. If you played Puzzle Bobble before, yeah, you can play the game on your phone mobile also. So just Nasriflix
Yeah.
Request denied. Request denied. Yeah. Dennis, I need your help. How to go to Safari?
I use the it's the one above the blue. Under Claude.
This one, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, I try. Is it?
Maybe the mobile phone. Not mobile device.
Nasri, yeah. Okay. So you can see here, and then there's this Nas Bobble. If you on mobile, you can press this full screen, and then you can play. There, I built this. There. See? By the way, right, this one what I did, right, in Notion, I just tell you is, I just asked Notion, hey, like, build me a PRD for a Puzzle Bobble inspired site, and then use my reference like make it unique a bit, right? So then, solely reiterate. And this one is actually, it is hosted, I'm not uploading inside, it's actually inside Notion itself. So the game or whatever that you built is inside of a page inside of Notion. I just have that routing where you can just link when you have a code where you look at the data, and then it just sends a webhook every time I update the Notion page, and it will automatically upload to Netlify, to my hosting platform. Yeah. Okay, fun stuff. So if you guys are geekers, you guys want to build, I'm sure you guys got ideas after this, go and build your own games. Okay, super easy to build. I built this in like 2 hours at midnight. Okay. Let's carry on. Where are we again? Okay, yeah, I think we're good. So that's on my end. I'll hand this over back to Dennis to talk about workers. So for developers, this one's for you. Thanks, Dennis. Sure.
All right, thanks, Nasri. Before I move on, just one quick terminology explanation. For anyone who is not familiar with the acronym PRD, it just stands for Product Requirements Document, which basically just lays out sort of your design decisions and what you want your product or project to do. I think when you're building these kind of more complex things with AI, I think what's often useful is to have one chat where you're working through these decisions and kind of fine-tuning like what you want your project to actually do and how you want it to work. Once you have all of that, rather than continuing that super long conversation where, again, at some point the LLM starts to run out of memory and not perform as well, what's better is to just produce a kind of finished document that has all of the kind of important decisions and guidance without the whole, super, as you can see, Nasri's chat was, I don't know, like 8 hours long. So at the end of that, you probably could just have like a 1 or 2 page document, feed that to a new AI session where it doesn't need to get distracted by all of the back and forth conversation. It just has the important stuff, and then proceed to building. So just sort of like in the way like that, humans used to work, at least, is you'd have a bunch of meetings deciding all of these things, but then when it gets time to build, nobody's reading, the transcript of every single meeting, like line for line. You have some kind of summary document that the next team then, takes over from. So I think that's sort of the way I think of it. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this part because this gets a little bit more technical. But one of the newer offerings that Notion introduced just a couple of weeks ago is something called Notion Workers. And what these are not directly AI related, but what Notion Workers are basically small programs that run on Notion's cloud that can do a number of different things. They can sync data from external sources into a Notion database. So I'll show you a use case for that. They can also give custom tools to one of your custom agents. So let's say you have some app that you want your custom agent to be able to interact with, but it doesn't have an MCP server that you can easily plug in. Custom tools Notion Workers give your agent a way to interact with that app or SaaS tool, even though it doesn't have an MCP server or a built-in integration. So within the kind of like broader Notion ecosystem, the way that these data sync Notion Workers operate is they go really hand in hand really well with Notion's newer dashboard and chart data visualization features. So for example, we have a Notion worker in our workspace, or several actually, that sync in data from external sources. In a marketing context, we have workers that sync in data from analytics platforms like Google Analytics to monitor website traffic, from our email newsletters that help us so we can show reporting on open rates and things like that, from social media so we can track engagements and impressions and those sorts of things. And again, there's a lot of technical stuff here that I'm not going to go through, but basically what a sync worker does is it runs on a schedule, pulls data from whatever your external source is, in this case Google Analytics, streams it into a Notion database, and then you can visualize that in charts and in other ways. So this is like a sort of long-standing need that Notion has finally addressed with Notion Workers because Notion databases are so useful. I'll give an example. When I worked at Twitter, a lot of what I spent my time on was building reporting in tools like Tableau on revenue performance, on how the ad auctions were performing, and all things like that. The issue that often arose was none of the senior execs at Twitter ever opened Tableau. I don't think they even had licenses. So we built all these really cool dashboards. You could filter them. You could like visualize the data in different ways. But every Monday morning, we spent like 3 hours like screenshotting from the dashboard and pasting them onto slides. And that's how they consume the data. With the advantage of Notion Workers and dashboards, if you're in a company or an organization that is already using Notion, then the benefit of having the data, like the metrics and charts and all of that, in the space where people are already working and they're tracking their tasks and their meeting notes and all kinds of things, There's a huge benefit to that because it doesn't feel like they have to go learn a new tool and get a license and figure out how to sign in and all that kind of stuff. And it's certainly not as powerful as a dedicated BI tool like Tableau, but for 80% of the things that you actually need to show, where it's probably just year-on-year revenue growth, you can definitely do that in a Notion database and charts. Notion workers also run on the Notion credit, so it's usage-based pricing. But this is not AI. This is just simple compute, so it's very cheap. So running a worker that is syncing data from Google Analytics every 15 minutes is probably going to cost you like $1 a month or something worth of credits. Where AI comes into play with these is, I think, and the reason that Notion built this platform is because with coding agents like Claude Code or within Notion AI itself, it is so much easier now to write one of these things because at the end of the day, it's all code. So if you had to sit there and write it by hand, this platform would have very little adoption. It would only be accessible to hardcore, proper engineers and programmers. But because coding agents have made coding so accessible to a much wider set of people, it makes it much more feasible to have this sort of platform where almost anyone, if you just have basically a basic idea that you can describe to a coding agent of what you want to start syncing into Notion, it can pretty much, just with a lot of back and forth prompting, get you to where you need to be, and then you have it up and running. So that's really more where the AI kind of comes into play here. It's not in running the workers themselves, it's actually writing the code to build them. So again, the BI stack is now, you can have sync workers pull the data that you need from wherever it lives, what other application, store it in Notion databases, visualize it in Notion dashboards. And then finally, another huge benefit is, again, like Notion AI, it can see all of that data that's sitting in those databases. So you can just ask it questions, right? You can just ask it like, oh, traffic was up, traffic spiked to our website last week, what were the major sources, or what pages were most viewed, and all that sort of thing. And it can reason over all of that information since it's all kind of contained within Notion. All right, so that was just a quick overview of Notion workers. And lastly, Nasri is going to give a little demo of Notion AI meeting notes.
Okay. Okay, back to AI meeting notes. So this conversation, all that we have just now, it was recorded on this meeting note right here. So what you see right now is actually the audio being uploaded. I actually recorded it on my phone. So if you are on the go or if you're in Notion, do check out for the AI meeting notes blog. The AI meeting notes blog now has a few functionalities. Let me show you. Right? So imagine if you are every single day you have meetings, and who here take notes on your meetings on paper? Anybody? One? Who else take notes? What do you guys use? Never tell. All inside the brain. All just remember. Then like later, what did you guys say? Then go and look for the person, right? Yeah. So if you guys are using, some of you here, maybe some of you use Plot, some of you use maybe like a Otter or what, right? When you guys join a meeting, right, you might have a bot joining the call. In Notion, right, Notion AI meeting notes also work with your Google Meet and also your Zoom sessions. It will automatically detect your session and then it will just record in the background. It records the audio and then it will just show. So in Notion, when you are running, you'll see a transcript here. Okay? Why is it not showing? Let me exit here. Okay, it's probably still loading. But it's actually like, what it does is it will transcribe live, okay, and then it will capture all the summary. And you can also see here what are the sections. Remember just now what we covered, right? So you can see Ernest covered Notion and Notion AI basics, right? And then I covered AI skills, custom agents. Dennis spoke about this. So imagine if you're running events, right, and you have like long hour session. I have a friend who went to the Dubai Content Creator Conference. he recorded like the whole event from start to end. I think like more than 12 hours of sessions. But every speaker, he will just record, and then after that, you will like stop. So because he's a content creator, he needs to get all these nuggets of information, because it's, again, the conference is so expensive. He wants to get as much and squeeze as much content as possible. He used Notion AI meeting notes to just record everything, right? So once you have all this, you can also set custom instructions. Again, if for some people, maybe you are using a certain way of formatting, maybe for team meetings or stand-ups, you guys want like a very short, punchy sort of things. Some of you guys prefer to have like action items at the top. Again, right? So imagine now we have all this information. And I got some action items here as well. I can just, again, use Notion AI, okay, to just tell the AI, hey, from the meeting notes, can you just add action items into our task database? Just like that, right? So imagine if you have a meeting and you have like different people assigned to do different things. You just get your AI, tell the AI, hey, look at the meeting notes, put it into our task, and assign it to the right person. You save a lot of time already. So technically, all this admin boring work, right, can be run by AI. Another thing that I think that would be useful for you to show you guys in terms of the meeting note itself is this. Now give me one sec. Okay, I just put it here and then see. The Notion AI, now you're able, the meeting notes, you can upload audio as well. Okay, so you have recording offline, maybe somewhere with no internet or whatever, right? Just record the conversation. Let's say you're having a conversation with someone, record, and then upload the audio later, it will summarize for you. And if you are recording this, there is an option in the settings to actually download the audio as well. So if you're recording and then you need the audio for transcription, or you want to keep it as a, like a separate page, you can download as well. That's pretty much for AI. And you can see here, this meeting note for this event, you will also detect based on your calendar. If you are using Notion calendar and you run this AI meeting notes blog, you can see just now I type /meet, it will detect and then ask you whether is this meeting note for this event. Okay? And yeah, again, the Notion AI meeting notes is for business plus business plan onwards. So you guys can have a try, okay, record your conversations, and if let's say for this event itself, right, I see from here already, I can straight away upload inside my Nasri flicks already, what we did. Super fast. After this tonight, confirm I upload one. Okay? Other than that, I think I covered pretty much AI meeting notes. Do you want to head over? Oh, there's some questions. Oh, okay. This one, maybe Dennis, do you want to answer? Yeah. Okay, I'll let Dennis answer.
All right, let's see, what do we have? Will my agent or details be seen if I connect my private email to the shared workspace? So yes, so your agent will, whatever, if you do connect it to your private, say, personal email, your agent, if you give it those permissions, it will be able to read, the contents of your email. So, you have to decide what your comfort level is with that. And given that this is a trial demo kind of shared workspace, I wouldn't, necessarily advocate giving it access to something that, you don't feel comfortable with. Let's see, how can I customize it to my own? I think I covered that already, basically essentially talking through how in your agent instructions, you can give it very detailed, guidance about how you want it to write, what your tone is. Something also that I do, not for emails, but for writing content, is I will often ask it to help me draft. I'll have some idea about something I want to post in our blog or our social media feeds, and it reads the skill. It writes a draft based on my guidance, but I never just publish it based off of that. I do a lot of heavy editing. after I get done with my editing, I will then just prompt Notion AI and say, have a look at what I changed from your first draft, and then think about how we could improve the skill so that you get closer to what I'm trying to, how I want to sound on the first try next time. And so that way, I don't have to necessarily articulate, because sometimes I change things and I can't even, I don't know how to articulate exactly why I changed it, but I don't have to explain it. Like the AI can just read through the changes, and then it does a really good job of kind of being able to articulate and explain, what I changed, and then make suggestions, which I'll approve or not, but it makes suggestions to how we can revise the skill. So I'm basically constantly editing that skill to get it closer and closer to how I want it to, how I want to sound. And probably the way I want to sound also, probably evolves over time in ways that I'm not necessarily conscious of, but if you're continuously kind of revising your skill, it evolves with you. Yeah, the data visualization, so that is pretty new. So the first step was when they introduced charts, which is basically the ability to visualize data in a Notion database, in a basic chart format. And the options that you have are like some of what Nasri showed. You can have line charts, you can have just standalone numbers, you can have pie charts, column charts, et cetera. But then what they rolled out on top of that more recently was this dashboard feature, which instead of just having one giant chart, you can kind of lay them out in panels so that you can have a bunch of related metrics kind of in a single view. And within that, just like in a more powerful BI tool like Tableau, you can have global filters. So I can say, like, for all of these charts that I'm showing in this dashboard, I don't want to have to filter the date for each one individually. Just apply this date filter. Here I have it, I only want to look at posts from the last 4 months. So just apply that filter to all of the charts here, and I just have to set it once. And if I change it, it'll change all of the charts. So this is a newer feature. And this, I think, goes really hand in hand with the data sync feature that Notion Workers makes possible. Potential damage, I think we talked about already. So data residency, when Notion first launched, it was US only, not surprisingly. Then more recently, they introduced EU, and just earlier this year, I think they added Japan. So those are the 3 data residency options. I think Australia might be next on the map. They don't have Singapore as an option yet. I don't know if there are plans to do so, but those are the options as it stands now. Okay, just before we close, we'll just put it up on. We would love to stay in touch, so we'll stick around for a little while. Happy to chat, and then just a couple of QR codes if you want to sign up for our newsletter. We publish a newsletter a couple of times a month, and or follow us on LinkedIn. So thanks, everyone, and thanks for having us.
Hey guys, so one more last thing is that we also have some merch promotion. So we have some caps, we have tote bags and stickers over there. We'll leave it on this table over here so it's more open. Just help yourself if you all want the stickers. But besides from that, hope you all had a great time learning with us today, covering both all the way from just basic Notion, then using AI, and then after that custom agents and what can actually be done with Notion at a very, very broad level. So we hope that you guys continue to use Notion, and if you are in...
What's that?
Is there a Telegram group?
Oh, no.
So we have a Telegram
It's on the
group
other
chat
slide.
also for Notion Singapore. And if you would like to join it, just approach one of us, and then after we'll just add you in. But thank you again.
I think it was on the other slide.